And it looks like things are turning on. I'm going to double check on the dual output. We should start seeing a live notification. All right, hello. It looks like it's coming in. Can you see me? Because I can't see me. We are going live. All right. Tonight's format, because so much is constantly happening and it's happening so fast, it's hard to keep up with for anybody. And a lot of this I actually take for granted because I believe the knowledge and experience that I have is such that everyone has. It's just the world I live in. So good evening. Hope you're doing good. Thank you for joining the newsroom. Tonight on Max News, we're going to be going over to Pentagon and the facts that the Pentagon's buying AI. That's not, in fact, a totally new story. We covered this earlier when it came to Anthropic and OpenAI. So we're going to go a little bit deeper, and it's actually growing more and more. Also, the argument about how soldiers are being tracked and put at risk. And where does that leave us? I'm just going to make sure that we have everything working. The tech is basically on our side. All right, hello. Can you hear me okay? All right. I've been trying to work on chat. Eventually I'll have it. It'll be great, like just a giant thing of chat, and I'll be able to read it as we go through. So it just takes time. And how's the visual? Do you see me in the vertical? So generally I have a little screen here that shows me kind of a preview, if you will. I don't have that right now, so it's a blank slate. So I'm just crossing my fingers and hoping everything looks cool. Awesome. All right. Thank you for joining. Tonight we're going to go over the just the usual stuff. And before we begin, hey, you know, why don't we just enjoy something that's kind of cool just for a moment? Who doesn't like a little bit of the fix? We all need a good fix every now and then. Why not? So because of TOS, I have to be in front of the video. I know, right? Otherwise, I'd move a little to the right, move a little to the left, your left, my left, some left. And at the same time, enjoy the music. A day and age that had a lot more freedom than we do now. Thank you for joining the Max Newsroom. Here on Max News, we enjoy good music. And special effects from the 90s. Thank you for joining the Max Newsroom. We're getting ready to start tonight's episode. AI and surveillance. What goes wrong when you mix that with the government? Possibly. I like their outfits. It's a band that has good taste. Thank you for joining. This is the Max Newsroom. We are starting our show. And cheers to you for making it another day. Because it's a crazy world we live in. Do you remember a time when they used to use instruments for music? When you used to listen to music and it didn't track you? It wasn't a tracking device? They were called cassette tapes. They were called records. And surprisingly, the quality was better than we have today. See, digital isn't better quality, it's just more convenient. Thank you for joining the Max Newsroom. We're just enjoying another moment of good music before starting. And remember, if I don't see your chat in the live chat, just DM me. I will get to you sometime. It is difficult with everything going on. Awesome. Now, we'll go ahead and begin with tonight's episode. You see, the Pentagon is buying AI. As if it were candy. Soldiers are being tracked through commercial data and, well, obviously, as we're used to on this channel, everything will be sold to you as safety or convenience. And the funny thing is, the American forefathers, the founding fathers of the country named America, actually warned people about this. Oh, so the question becomes, what do we do with it? Now, the first thing is to always be aware of it and work with what we can. That being said, AI regulation is a political battlefield, and there's a good reason because of that. But it's really a power struggle. And honestly, the next cybersecurity arms race isn't underway, it's been underway. The question isn't what AI can do anymore. The question is who gets to control AI. That being said, we're going to go over 5 of today's top stories. The theme essentially is who gets to control the machines because they get to control the rules. AI, privacy, surveillance, identity, government, big tech, and power. Welcome to the newsroom for tonight. As you know from the story that was previously covered, where Anthropic had a deal with the DoD, basically giving them access to their AI technology. However, part of that deal was that American citizens would remain private, their data anonymous, and not given to the DoD or to the government. The DoD government decided they didn't like that deal anymore, went to Anthropic and said, no, we would like to have all the information from all American citizens. So what that means to you is if you are using, for example, most people use ChatGPT, right? Every conversation, every text, every question, every message now handed over to the government. Very interesting. Anthropic replied with no. The government replied with, well, cool, and pulled the rug underneath took hundreds of millions and said, contract's null. And of course, OpenAI just walked in with an open hand and said, we like money. Go figure. Now that we've caught up with that story, we've gone over it several times, but it is definitely a keystone moment to point out that a fallacy of logic called a slippery slope is not always a fallacy when it's true. Big tech and AI have been working together to essentially move into classified military systems. Recent reports have shown this is an expanding relationship. It's a relationship between frontier AI companies and the Pentagon. This includes classified use cases and cybersecurity deployments. We were told AI would write emails, but now it's entering classified environments. That happened pretty quick. Who will benefit from this? Well, AI companies, big tech, defense contractors, the insiders, and government agencies, the inside. Who loses? Well, transparency overall and public oversight. Funny how that seems to happen. So what happens when civilian information platforms become national security infrastructure? We're going to find out. Consumer AI is moving into military AI, more and more becoming a military infrastructure, more and more the hands of Big Brother. The software writing your emails may help classify systems of authority, systems of government, and the systems being used in military conflict. The line between Silicon Valley and Washington just keeps getting thinner and thinner by the day. The next argument has to do with location, the locale, if you will. You see, commercial location data has reportedly been allowing adversaries to identify military personnel and their patterns. To me, this is not anything new. We've known of this for a long time. So why are we raising the flag so much now? You see, here's the real hidden truth. If location data can expose soldier locations and soldier movements, then what's it exposing about civilian public life? What's it exposing about you? And why are you not being represented in this as well? You see, your data is being bought and sold by the government and big tech daily. But now the government wants to protect itself. As for yourself, as for all of us, in fact, especially normies, phone apps, ad networks, data brokers, location history, all of this is data that's being bought and sold on the market. And the people benefiting from this are those data brokers and the advertising ecosystems. In fact, I saw a comment that was made. It was made on LinkedIn the other day where someone was saying, hey, it's kind of sad how all this negative, if you will, fake ads, fake information, and essentially scams are being promoted on the LinkedIn platform. I went ahead and commented just to remind the person, that's where a lot of the platform's profit comes from. You see, it's an ecosystem. It's not a one-off. The ecosystem is actually built a situation, essentially, where it's symbiotic. You see, all these scams, all these negative things, misinformation and whatnot, you have to remember the platform is paid by viewership. So the more activity, the more viewership, the platform gets paid, regardless of whether it's moral, immoral, legal, illegal. It doesn't care. It's a beast that wants to be fed. And so it, in fact, has created the ecosystem where it is a reward system for those who have learned essentially to manipulate it. Who loses? Well, in this situation, privacy and operational security, which includes all the public. That would be you and I. Now, remember, your phone is talking even when you aren't. Your phone is listening even when you're sleeping. Your phone is listening even when it's turned off. Location data is intelligence And that data isn't just used for you, it's for you and others around you. One of the things I've brought up multiple times in MFA is the reality that you may have an elite hacker or someone who's very, very capable and well-versed, yet it does not matter how well they hide their footsteps. The moment that they use their voice, it is a fingerprint, an ID. In fact, the code, the law right now in America is being rewritten in such a way and interpreted in such a way that already the belief is as soon as you leave the front door of your house, you have given up all rights for your face and voice. That allows for all the remote cameras. That allows for the drone swarms that will be coming. It allows for all of the cameras that are hidden, that are collecting information, but more importantly, in my opinion, the microphones. You see, faces are one thing, however, voices are another. Voice is something that the media has not mentioned. Voice is something that I have harped on for many years now, and here's the reason why. With face, you can essentially attempt to hide that. You can alter it. You can wear a fake mustache or some cool glasses at night. However, with your voice, when you walk into a Starbucks and order a coffee, when you walk into a burger joint and you order a shake, your voice will be heard by multiple devices. Those devices record and report without the owner of the device even being aware. And what happens now is that voice is a fingerprint, and the next time it's heard, they'll triangulate that. They'll hold that data, and they'll start building essentially your binary twin. So even if you happen to be an elite hacker, you happen to be elite at OSINT, you happen to have elite skills, the reality is it's becoming more and more difficult for you to retain those, for you to keep those hidden. And then the argument is always for convenience or for safety. We are entering the surveillance economy, and it doesn't stop at advertising. I have had discussions with intelligent people that I respect greatly. And in fact, one of them, First Sergeant, just last week, the conversation was interesting because we're on the opposite side of the table, but we're on the same side. And what I mean by that is the perfect balance. You see, the thought of America resided on this. We may disagree. However, our intent is the same. We want the best outcome. We want our children to have the best life, the most opportunity. That is the outcome we desire. Thus, we may have different perspectives and point of views. However, we can come together, have discussion, we can debate, we can even argue, and yet know that both of us are striving for a greater good, and we can both live in that world. However, things have been manipulated so far that that seems to be impossible for some. We must get back to that. The understanding is simple. Where he stands now is where I stood 10 years ago. I debated for surveillance, but that is when I started. I've been on the journey for 10 years. I have apparently switched sides. I don't agree with surveillance. Not at all. It needs to be very limited, if at all. But at this point, well, the beast is out and it needs to be fed. You see, the surveillance economy doesn't stop at mere advertising. We would think that we could have cookies in our browsers and just simple things, and those little tracking mechanisms, they may be innocent to begin with. They may make sense to begin with. We say, hey, if I'm looking for a new bicycle, why not let other bicycle manufacturers know to provide me the best deal, to provide me options, if you will. So, the concept of capitalism, which I watched someone on YouTube who I find very knowledgeable, yet make the greatest mistake of all. He was explaining capitalism, and he forgot the most important piece of it, which is a free market. Without a free market, capitalism is a joke. It is tyranny. Welcome to the circus. The founding fathers knew that. There were many books written about this. You should try reading and not eating. And in these books, they made it very clear. A free market isn't absolute. As soon as you lose a free market, capitalism now is just a trap. It is just a Chernobyl waiting to happen again. And you can combine that with the fiat system and many other arguments as well. So again, although I found this person very intelligent, very knowledgeable, and we all make mistakes, including myself, because we're human, that's fine. He forgot to mention the free market. We do not have a free market in America. It is out of control. With a free market, there are checks and balances, and things don't get too big like big business, which we were warned of by a former president. Military-industrial complex is a thing of yesterday. The surveillance complex is a thing of today, and AI leads the way on that one. The devices and systems we have in play all play in a giant network, and they may come in as an advertisement benefit. We may think, now I have the freedom of choosing from multiple bicycles, different manufacturers, coupons, sales, things that sound very good to me. But in all reality, the truth is, that's not where it ends. The data isn't deleted either. And the data goes on to multiple markets and multiple third parties that you and I will never be able to track. We won't know. And as I mentioned on this show, politics is not something to get too wrapped up into. Don't get onto one side and become extreme. One of the greatest heroes of our time was JFK, and he happened to be a Democrat. So, to say one side or the other, I don't think is the way to go. The sides change constantly. There's a hidden hand controlling the narrative. The understanding is when you realize it's about control, not about whose side of what fence, what thought, what ideal, what's the discussion today. It's about control. The political side in power now will eventually change. The inevitability is it'll change to another side. The inevitability from that one to another side yet again. The game is to make sure that none of those sides have too much control. Yet, the argument of advertising, the ability to look at different bicycles and coupons and save me a few dollars, assuming a free market and fair capitalism, may sound good. But all that data is going into the hands of someone and something very powerful. And today, it may benefit you and I, but tomorrow it may not. So we should be a little bit careful about that. At the same time, digital ID is still expanding. As I've mentioned several weeks ago, even purchasing a new computer, when you power it on, they want you to verify with ID. Now, don't get too hard up onto Windows or onto Apple, because guess what? Linux is following suit. Yes, that includes Linux operating systems as well. So we'll see where that lands. But at the moment, I still find it very interesting. I would not have 5 years ago, several years ago, imagined it would happen that quick. But again, it is being done in the process and thought of, well, we're doing this to protect people. If you're going to protect 3,000 people, yet sacrifice 330 million people, that's an interesting argument. Multiple governments and institutions are continuing to advance the age verification. Last week, or excuse me, 2 weeks ago, we went over Europe and what they're doing in the EU currently. America is following suit. We're not that far behind. We're using age verification in order to capture everyone's digital identity and biometrics. Once again, understand, once these are collected, they never go away. You do not simply change your voice or simply change your face. Unless you're John Travolta in the movie Face Off. I believe that was a movie where they did so. So I suppose you could prove me wrong. But until you do, the information doesn't go away. The rest of your life, people will use that information how they see fit. You may not agree with that, but what choice will you have? Biometric data and biometric systems also create a very large and substantial honeypot, wouldn't you think? Every year, more and more systems want to know exactly who we are, who you are. What do you like? What do you do? Where a generation ago, we considered those to be private questions. And now we just share them openly. Age verification, identity wallets, biometric authentication, verified access. And now this has somehow become acceptable, part of daily life, if you will. We don't even bat an eye anymore. We just raise the device, show the face, and have access without thinking, I just gave away biometric data that'll never go away. That biometric data is now residing on multiple databases, on multiple systems, and being sold to multiple third parties, and I don't know who they are, as well as the government. This is a loophole we covered several weeks ago on how the government collects data even if Congress decides, you know, we don't want to extend, we're not going to allow this. The government says, that's fine, we'll just go ahead and purchase it from data brokers. Somehow they seem to win. And using our own money, of course. Who benefits from this? The platforms, the governments, and the identity providers. Yet who loses? Well, anyone who wants to have anonymous participation, which is very important. Pseudonymity, for example, having the ability to be anonymous is not an evil thing, bad thing, or a wrong thing. True, people abuse it. Yes, that is true, but not all people. And those are specifics being brought up to argue for a whole in general. There are times that people want to be anonymous. There are times when people want an answer to a simple question, to a chat bot, to an AI bot, without having it be tracked or traced just to them. It may be a health concern. Who knows? I don't want to know. Let them have their private data. The future isn't going to be anonymous anymore. Identity is becoming the infrastructure. Verification is becoming the price of admission. And the problem with that is this creates the gate. So today you have access to AI. Today you have access to tools, to platforms and websites. But for example, as some sites right now have already been flagged, which is fine, but these sites will continue and continue to say, now it's 3,000 words you're not allowed to say. Now it's this type of clothing you're not allowed to wear. Now it's this type of activity you cannot perform. And at some point, that list will become a little bit overbearing. At what point do we realize we're being suffocated? At what point do we realize we're in boiling water and we're a frog and we can't jump out now? Maybe there's a point where we say no more. Enough is enough. There is, or was, a thing called freedom. And the point with freedom is, yes, you get hurt. Yes, accidents happen. But rather than having tens of thousands of Trident missiles or having a 54 kill ratio of the planet, which 3 times almost happened due to human and mechanical error, you see, nature is chaos. People get hurt. But not the entire world, not all people. We have somehow forgotten this. Climbing a tree is risky. Climbing a tree means you might fall and break your arm, and that's okay. It'll heal. And yes, you might fall and not get up, as rare an event as that might be. But does that mean we go cut all the trees down? Does that mean when someone falls down the stairs, we take out all stairs in the country? No, it doesn't. Does it mean that it's not a harmful or bad situation that took place? Of course not. But we have to take a moment and realize there is a greater scope, and what can we honestly do to improve it? This overregulation, this verification, and permanent infrastructure with biometrics is not the solution. That's literally cutting down all the trees on the argument that a few may fall and get hurt. AI regulation is becoming a major political and policy battleground. But the true battleground is really over who's going to control it. The fight isn't about AI, it's about who's going to govern AI. Safety versus innovation, open models versus control models, government oversight, corporate influence, and for how long will we have access to those things? You see, whoever's going to win, they're going to write the rules, meaning small competitors, independent developers won't even be able to play. AI isn't just a technology anymore. This was part of the lesson last night. I want people to understand AI is something people can leverage and use. You can start using AI in your home. You can start tonight, you can start tomorrow. I will perform another lesson. I actually would like to show you how you can download it, because you can use AI to your benefit. The sooner, the better. The biggest AI battle isn't going to be what you think it's going to be, and it's not going to be happening today. It's what's happening tomorrow, and when it does happen, there won't be a way to go back. Regulation will determine the winners before the race will even start. This is one of the reasons for the hundreds of billions being spent in a geopolitical war between rivals like NVIDIA. New frontier models are forcing banks, governments, and security teams, of course, to rethink cyber defense. We covered this weeks ago with InfraGard, a meeting where the FBI discussed several of the autonomous AI attacks, where for the first time we had an autonomous AI and it attacked over 30,000 targets on its own, no human in the loop. Quite impressive. However, again, maybe we can use our efforts for something good. AI doesn't need new vulnerabilities. It only needs to find the old ones faster. That was the concept, and it still stands. The defenders cannot update, upgrade, change, patch, review configurations as fast as the AI attack can take place. AI-assisted discovery, vulnerability hunting, automated security analysis, infrastructure risk, these are the things I do. And I will tell you right now, even with my home AI, I am thoroughly impressed and giggly. I think it's amazing. It happens absolutely fast. I used to use Backtrack. I would have what you call a cyber deck. Actually, I still have one. Maybe I bring on a show if someone would like to see it. But I will take my cyber deck and use tools. You have PCAP. There are a lot of really cool tools, and it teaches you to think. It teaches you how things work. But the reality is, with AI now, it's literally a click of the button, and it will do what it would take me hours, and it can do it in a minute or two. It is impressive. But if being used for wrong or for harm, well, we don't have a way to defend against that quite yet. not all at once. Organizations that adapt quickly to this will be the ones that can sustain. The ones that are on legacy systems or that are in technical debt, unable to hire professionals like myself to come in and assist, are going to be the losers. They're going to be the ones crossing their fingers and hoping that the day doesn't come. But the problem is the AI is so fast. Speed is now the weapon, and technical debt is turning into national debt. You'll start feeling that more and more on the headlines coming soon, I assure you. Because AI makes old vulnerabilities new again. MFA, digital ID, biometrics, crypto regulation, and AI access controls are not one-off. They're all part of the same thing. They're all part of a new control system. And once it's complete, it'll be a system that reads access granted or denied. Remember that the old internet asked you, what would you like to see today? Where the new one says, who are you? Please verify. And that concludes our 5 topics for this evening. I'd like to take a moment for the chat, and if we want, we can go over some of the AI concepts I was doing last night. I actually have this fancy whiteboard. If you didn't join me last night, so this is a new thing for me, because the show's new, so I had this fancy whiteboard. Check this out. So I like whiteboarding. Boom. Can you see that? Yeah. And I have this fancy pen. So, and with that, I can now draw. Very cool. Now, let me see if I can get the vertical back up. One moment. Aha. No, I still don't see the vertical. All right, that's fine. For this show, I have to look at this might be the 10th episode or 11th. But for this show, the concept is, it's the end of the day, I come in here, rapidly put everything together, put the show together, and then from this, I supposedly the next day will take some time to edit and have a long form and some clips. That has not been happening. I hope to catch up to that. So I do appreciate anyone who follows on any of my channels, comments, any of the likes, subscribing, following, any of that. It definitely helps. And all I can say is things will increase to get better and more fun. The thing is, all the things I find fun get me in trouble. I even got in trouble for playing The Fix. I figured I could get away with it. I don't want to play the boring music that they say I could play. They have a music library, and all they have in it is like the same. I don't want to use the bad word. I'm going to get double flagged. You know, the S word, right? It's just the same S word. But that's all it is. It's just a library of boring junk. And I'm like, hey, there's like so much cool music and videos, like art. So bear with me as I find a balance where I can play more, do more, and not get in trouble, because it seems to be the one thing I'm actually good at. Really quick, though, I do want to go over this for a few, just like 2 minutes. For AI, if you didn't join last night, it was just a very basic 101, and I wanted to point something out because I keep finding people and they're not up to speed on what AI is, so they think it's magic or something. Now, computers, as we're all kind of been used to, but let's make sure you can see this. Computers have been kind of a system that's sequential. So A to B to C. Now, with that, Here's a good example of the difference of a traditional computer and the human brain. With a human brain, let's just take something like 3 times 3. In the human brain, we're able to know 3 times 3 equals 9. So for our brain, we perform one operation because we know how to multiply that X right there. So we do one operation in our brain. Boom, very quickly, it's 9. With a computer, a traditional computer, it couldn't do multiplication. What it would do is it would say 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals 9. That's a lot more operations. That's a lot more stuff it's doing. That, when I write it down, makes us look very smart. However, the computer would be so much quicker at doing it. So even though it's doing multiple operations, it would do it so fast that we would be impressed. And especially when it came to big numbers. And that's where our brains would kind of fall apart a little. Now, the next difference. When we have quantum, so let's look at a quantum computer really quick. Superposition, it's up and down. The way I always explain quantum is just think of it as an up and down. It's a very, very simple linear. A computer operates with ones and zeros, on, off, right? So with a quantum, just think of it as being, it can be a 1 or it could be a 0, which is in the same position. That's it. Keep it kind of simple. And we can get into qubits, physical and virtual and a whole bunch of stuff too, but we're going to leave it at that. Now, here's why it's really cool. Traditional, we saw a sequential. Quantum, we just see how it's a superposition of a single statement, a binary, right? A 1 or a 0. Okay. But now with AI, what's that? What's AI? What makes it so special? Now, with that, what makes AI so special, instead of that traditional computer where we saw that traditional computer essentially doing a sequential operation, what we're going to see now happening is similar to the human mind. In the human mind, you have data points, right? You see those dots there? So those are data points. In the human mind, we can connect those data points. And those data points all mean something. Let's just say, for example, you're hungry. You're like, I'm really hungry. And this data point here, it's fish. This one here is a baseball. You're hungry. Your brain looks for a data point and it connects over here to fish. And it says, yeah, fish. And you go, that sounds amazing. Why didn't it go to basketball or baseball glove or shoe? These other data points. Well, repetition, emotion, there's different trainings that happen in your brain since you were a baby. So your brain kind of knows you're hungry. You know what? One of your favorite foods is fish. And it's going to connect the dots very quickly. And now you have the thought of fish. I'm going to go get fish. And you're going to skip shoes, shoelaces, baseball, basketball, football. Just going to go to fish. That's learned, and it takes humans years, right? Because when you're a baby, you're pretty much licking a wall socket and eating paint. Now, AI is not much different. Not much different at all. So this is kind of a neurology. This is how brain synapses and brain synaptic regions, how they work. And the way with a AI, right? An AI has data points. And what this means is, and parameters, you can use different words as well, but the data points, if you grab a model that has 32 billion, for example, or 14 billion, or 1.1 trillion data points, think of it as each one of those data points as being a word. Fish, duck, canoe, kite, submarine, rocket ship, all these different things. And when you ask it, hey, I want to get to the bus stop, what should I take? How's about a submarine? And you're like, no. Not a submarine. How about a duck? No, not a duck. That's called training. So the AI model goes through repetition and a reward system. and then it starts applying weights. So imagine that all these data points are connected. However, the data points that are most successful get a weight, right? So the connection's very thick, so it gets a weight of 5. So like fish, for example, would be a weight of 5, where tennis shoe would be a weight of 1. AI operates in that similar type of pattern, very much from a perspective mirroring how our brain works. It's not the same thing though, but just note that that's the difference. And that's one of the reasons why when we as humans, as people, work with AI, it seems almost as though the Turing test, it seems almost as though it's another person, but it's not. That's how it operates. Now, these models, if you will, so that model there is a package that you can actually download for free. So you can download these, you can install them on a computer, and then on top of them, you're able to put software, let's say OpenClaw. I still call it Cloudbud. That's what it started out as. There's Hermes. There's a handful of them. And then you're essentially running your own ChatGPT, but it can do stuff. It can actually open emails and do things. This is what I've been doing for other people and businesses, and I love showing and teaching people how to do it. Unlike some of the YouTubes, and they skip through parts and things, or they tell you to go buy a subscription. I don't understand that. You can do this. You don't need a subscription. It's all free. The question now becomes, do you have the hardware to run it on, like a Mac Mini, for example? They actually run quite good, especially for smaller models. Or if you don't have the hardware, then yes, renting something in the cloud temporarily for you to work with it, and then make a decision as to, as it grows, what you want to do with it. So you're not putting your stuff in someone else's machine with better marketing. Kind of like your Bitcoin. You don't want your Bitcoin being on someone else's machine. You want it on yours and your Bitcoin wallet, or crypto wallet, if you will. Again, hopefully you found the little AI thing here helpful. These are called large language models. And if you enjoy this, DM me, let me know. Maybe I can do a 1 hour tomorrow and kind of go over this from the ground up. I would actually like to show you how you can install it. You can actually install and have AI running in a matter of minutes, and then start training it and see what it can do. Think of it almost like a companion, almost like a little pet. But remember, it's not biological. It is still just binaries. It is still just compute. And on that note, I'll go ahead and let me take a quick look, make sure that things are working good on the chat. People can see that, and see if we can go out with a song without getting banned, because getting banned sucks. That's just like extra paperwork. No one wants extra paperwork, right? But I am definitely happy that the whiteboard thing's working. That's super cool. I'm going to disappear while I'm switching this. All right, cool. Thank you for joining, and hopefully I will see you tomorrow night.